It is 1:25 a.m. where I am, so that means we're officially 18 days away. If you guys notice, I've been doing these videos early in the AM, so I will continue to do so. Uh, so right now it's Thursday morning or Wednesday night, depending on you view it, and I will continue to do these uploads every night. So when we get to one day, will actually be Sunday night, but that will actually be Monday morning, and that'll be when we get to the one day away, I believe. Um, so without further ado, I wanted to discuss the same topic I discussed last night, which is the thought of my fan theory that the main villain in the MGS franchise is technology. Um, I got some really interesting replies on Reddit, and I thought I would share those with you guys to further the discussion. And I think this is a beautiful thing that we can do in MGS. That is something you rarely see in video games. But yeah, you see a lot of it in books and films and paintings. Other art forms seem to have this by like the boatload. Like everybody does it often, and yet for some reason we in the video game world don't really like to discuss in depth our video games once we finish them. And I think that's partly because a lot of society still views us as children and views us as just playing or whatnot, and we're not seen as being entertained by a valid art form. And hopefully discussions like these will further the understanding of video games. Well, without further ado, if you haven't watched last night's day 18, I suggest you watch that so you could hear my analysis of the Metal Gear franchise and how the main antagonist is technology. I got some really interesting replies though, so I'm just going to read them straight off my phone here. Um, Zucrates, Socrates. It's Socrates, but it's spelled funny. It's Socrates. States, the real enemy of Metal Gear Solid is ideology, in my opinion. The ideology primarily being peace. Everything is created post MGS3 in honor of the boss's vision for peace in the world, or negating the need for soldiers. The problems arise from the different interpretations and methodologies composed by the ideology of peace. At the end of the day, everything revolves around fighting for one's ideology, and technology, as you state, is just a means of projecting that ideology. Very interesting idea. I do think that the boss's speech at the end of MGS3 is pivotal for the franchise as a whole, and I think that's a very interesting point that the villain would be ideology and how one can misconstrue words and the idea of peace. It's very interesting because a lot of players tend to say that the main villain would be war, and that the games are very anti-war. So for this to be stating that the games are anti-peace is a very interesting take on it. I respect it. I like it a lot. It's on Reddit. It's got 3 points, so you know some seem to agree with it. The Nightwing 1197 commented. He stated, or he or she, I'm not sure, stated, I don't think it's technology, as the Patriots' AI advanced and evolved by itself, which was a product of the times. The boss, Big Boss, and many other pivotal characters mention how the times are the true villain, picking conflicts, allies, and enemies. War changes because of the times. People die because of the times. Time itself is, as mentioned throughout the games, the real villain, the destroyer and changer of all. That is really well put. I really love the idea of the times being the villain in the games. Big Boss and the boss both mention that their arch nemesis is the times. So that is very plausible. Nightwing 1197, I applaud you. That is a great point. The boss says something about what is a enemy in real terms, and then she states that a enemy changes with the times, and there's no such thing as an enemy. Uh, so I think she says in relative terms or something like that. So it's a very good point. Big Boss also at the end of Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. Spoilers, by the way. I mean, what are you doing watching this if you haven't played the games? Like, seriously, we're discussing the ones that are finished already. Anyway, at the end of Peace Walker, Big Boss also states to Kaz, he tells him, gather the men. We're going to be fighting a very tough enemy. And then Kaz says, who? The CIA, the United States, Russia? And then Big Boss says, no, a much more difficult enemy. We'll be fighting the times. So that's a very good idea there. I applaud that one. I think it was very well put. The enemy and the main antagonist of the series could just be time itself. Kojima could be making a statement about how things change over time, and how there's no such thing as an absolute enemy, and how we all will eventually die. It's time, just time itself is everyone's arch nemesis in a sense. So I could see how that could also be the main antagonist of the series. And finally, Flash Medallion says, I think technology is used as an example of a system that can be used for villainy if we don't pay attention to it. I don't really see the series saying that technological process is bad in and of itself, but rather it highlights an end case of technological progress for the sake of technological progress, with no thought given to the human cost. It's one of the examples that the series uses to implore us not to let systems of power in our society go unexamined. Technology, economics, industry, politics, etc. are a short list of many of those systems. Another very well thought out response here, stating that the real antagonist, now I may be misconstruing this, but the way I took that response is that the main antagonist would be like system of powers, and how individuals are not respected and are given a voice, or given their individuality. And I could see that, especially with the boss, and how she says that soldiers are just casted aside, and the same goes for Big Boss when he creates Outer Heaven. His whole thing is to make a place that's a heaven for soldiers, so excuse me, pardon me. So basically his whole thing was that every person's important, and that regardless of the times, or national conflict, or money, or anything involved, every soldier is important, and that he wants to make sure that every soldier is respected and treated justly, and that's why he creates the Outer Heaven. So I could see how major systems and/or imbalance of power, or misuse of technology, or politics, or anything of the sort could also be the main antagonist for this series. It's a very interesting discussion, and I think that the fact that we can have it and can even have different viewpoints shows how great the series is, and shows how great of an art form video games are. Because this is a video game. This is something that uh, a lot of society still thinks is a child's toy. And here we are having an intelligent discussion about it. A discussion that would usually be saved for coffee shops after watching some very indie film, or at the Cisco and Ebert Center after watching some 10-minute French film. And here we are having it about a video game. This is a video game. This is something that we play with our controllers on our PlayStations or Xboxes, and these are the kind of discussions that we're having about them. Um, as far as how I would retort to these things, I think the times and technological advances are hand in hand. I think most of these things and technology go hand in hand, because as the times progresses, as ideologies change, so does technology. But I think that the times thing is really just like a metaphor, or like a an idea, and this is why ideologies also works very well. It's all centered around the same idea, that as time progresses, things change, and as things change, they um they change from what everybody used to know. And the important thing to refer to in the series, I think, would definitely be peace. So the person that said peace is the antagonist is definitely onto something. It's definitely a motif, and a theme of the games. But I think that, like, something to take away, and this is just because it's a video game, and I'm reaching here. I realize that, but I think it's just Kojima and company, Konami, trying to say that no matter what changes over times, no matter how much technology is advancing, we're still being entertained. We're still enjoying a medium. We're still in a dream. Like I said in Snake Eater. And I think this is really, at least to me, the first game franchise that really attempted to make an art form, to have cinematics in Metal Gear Solid 1, and to be something other than, you know, a game, a toy. Um, Although you can make the case for Super Mario World 3 as well, and many others. But definitely an interesting discussion. We're at 18 days. Like, we're so close. I cannot wait for Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. Like, I can't wait. If you guys have any other points, please feel free to comment. I'll probably be posting this up on Reddit if you guys want to talk about it there. We're 18 days away. I still got plenty of stuff I want to talk about, and we will probably revisit this conversation at a later date because I think it's an interesting one to have, and I think Metal Gear Solid is one of the few game franchises that allows for such a conversation. But there definitely is no legit villain in these games. Like, there's no legit enemy, as is stated by the boss at the end of Metal Gear Solid 3. And with that, V for victory. 18 more days. 18. We're so close. Y'all have a good one. We're really close. Like, 18. Like, it's gonna be the longest 18 days of my life. I hope y'all tough it out like I am. We're going to get through this. We're going to get through this together. 18 more days. We can do this. V for victory.